What's up, Callo community? This is your host, Hannah Kirkpatrick, back again with another interview. Today I'm sitting down with Joaquin Acrich, producer turned now creative writer. We're discussing all things of taking leaps of faith into uncharted new job endeavors, overcoming imposter syndrome, and the importance of collaborating with like-minded people. Hi, Joaquin. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good, Hannah. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. We're over Zoom today. I'm based in Los Angeles, and you're in the lovely New York. How has that been?
It's been pretty great. I'm originally from here, kind of. I've been living here since I was like 10 years old, and then made that move to LA, and finally I'm back. But New York City's been amazing.
I watched Dating and New York.
Oh my God, that movie really kind of started the whole. I mean, I had started my career prior to that, but that really was
Catalyst.
the inciting incident.
You were a producer for the film. Could you walk me through, that process and what really drew you to the story of this film?
Yeah. I think that like the way to answer this question is kind of to go back, because the thing about making this movie was that I had to admit to myself that I knew nothing. That was like and this is like, the completely unrehearsed first time really talking about this in this capacity, which is that I started my career at WME, and I was there for quite a bit of time. I worked for some really amazing people. My first boss was this guy named Ryan Feldman, who represented like my favorite writers and directors. I thought that that's what I really wanted to do. He was represented the Safdie brothers and Michael Pears and Trey Schultz and all these people that I really admired. Then I went and worked for this guy named Patrick Whitesell, which was an amazing experience. Then I left to go work for a producer because I said, okay, I'm going to try and learn how to be a producer. But really, when you're in these tracks, you're trying to meet as many people as possible, read as many scripts as you can, but you're not really going to be getting on-set experience. So when Jonah Feingold called me to go make this movie, I had no idea what I was doing. It was kind of, he literally called me and he said, hey, I wrote a script. Do you want to go to New York and make a movie together? And 2 weeks later, amicably, I quit my job and moved to New York to make it.
What excited you most about the story and Jonah and the possibility of working with him?
Oh, man. I mean, the whole thing just kind of felt like fate, to be honest. We had met once before, and I started my love for movies really came in through the rom-com world. There's just no way around that. I really loved growing up with like When Harry Met Sally. There's just, I think When Harry Met Sally is probably my favorite movie of all time since I was like 10 years old, and I watched that movie over and over again. And I was definitely somebody who moved to New York City when he was 10 years old. I was watching these movies that like romanticized New York City. So when Jonah came to me with literally a movie about romance in New York City, I didn't think twice. I mean, I read the script, and at first I thought he sent it in consideration for my boss to produce, Brian Kavanaugh Jones. And I was like, I think this is a little too small. And he said, no, I want you to come and do this with me. So it felt like fate. It was the thing. Here's a guy who's telling me we can do this. We can take this leap of faith. I was 25 at the time, and yeah.
Well, and it's such
It was crazy.
amazing
The whole thing was crazy.
modern love story too. Like, I feel like it's so applicable to today's dating, and we needed that. We needed to see it.
It was so much fun to make, and I can talk about it for a long time.
I want to hear a little bit about that process in the making of, what struggles, obviously we'll talk about the positive as well, but I think it's important to note, what were your struggles with, building out a creative team and really, producing this film?
We shot the movie in 15 days running around New York City for $230,000. It was just, every cent was spent. But to answer your question, like I said at the beginning of this, the the first thing that we had to admit to ourselves, and I think me as I was the lead producer of the movie. Jonah had come to me with just a script, and it was this idea of like, okay, every day we need to get something done. The one thing that we had going for us is that we had a start date. That's like Jonah Feingold's number one rule. He's like, you have a start date and you work towards that. And I now put that in my life with almost everything. But it really came down to admitting, like, we have no idea what we're doing. There's just a whole team that goes behind doing anything. You have production designers and custom designers, and you have a line producer to deal with the budget. And that was the biggest thing, was me moving to New York and Jonah and I starting to meet with all these people, and me starting to open my eyes of like, oh, I was so scared at first because I thought it was such a daunting thing to come on and produce a movie. But really, it was just a matter of being able to say to these people that I was hiring, saying, I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to your job. So I'm putting my trust in you that you can do this thing and you can do this thing and this thing. And really my job at the end of the day was just to keep a positive attitude, hire the right people, and just pretend like everything it was going to work out. Because every day we probably hit a roadblock, and every day I called Jonah and I was like, we're screwed. It's over. We're done. And every day we were able to overcome it, you know, and it was only because of the people that we brought around us. I mean, there really are two people that I can name particularly. Their names are Katie Schiller and Kieran Altman. They're these incredible producers who, just before they made our movie, they made a movie called Shiva Baby. I don't know if you've seen Shiva Baby.
Not yet, but now I need to add to my list.
Great movie. You should see Shiva Baby. It's amazing. There were our line producers and AD, respectively, the two of them. And we sat down at lunch when Jonah and I thought that we were going to have to push our start date, and we didn't have a budget, and we didn't have a crew, and we didn't have anything except for the actors. And they really, you know, came in and they said, we can do this. We got this. I'm going to handle this. I'm going to handle this. You're going to handle this. And it was kind of this amazing moment of realizing it's all about collaboration, and it's all about taking one step forward every day.
And to kind of backtrack a little bit in terms of, you know, finding these incredible people, how did you source them? Were they in your network prior? Did you get relationships, you know, through Jonah to put all of them together, or what?
Yeah, it was kind of like one thing led into the next. I mean, I think the thing that drew people towards us, towards Jonah and I, was the fact that we were actually, you know, there's a lot of films that are in development a lot of times. Our line to everybody was like, we have the money, we're going to go make this. We were raising it as we were saying that, but like, we were saying this is going to happen. And one thing just kind of led to the next. I mean, we brought on these amazing casting directors because they were completely out of our league, but because of my network, and I was working for Brian Kavanaugh Jones at the time, there were these casting directors who casted all of Brian's movies. Their names are Chelsea Block and Marisol Roncalli, and they did it as a total favor. I mean, Jonah and I called them and we said, this is our pitch, this is our dream. I said to Chelsea, who I would speak to on the phone all the time, literally as an assistant, connecting her to my boss, saying, hey, I'm going to go make a movie. Will you help me? And so, you know, that was one of them. The other, in terms of casting the film, calling up assistants and people that I came up with in the world in WME and just saying, any chance your actor would do, you know, a couple days on our set. And it was really just shooting our shot.
What kind of led you into this and to fully dive into becoming a writer?
Yeah, I mean, look, I come from just in going to school, a lot of people I went to school with, and even in working after college at places like William Morris and Automatic, which is a big production company. All I really knew was a 9-to-5 job and the security of a paycheck and these things, kind of knowing that in 2 weeks my paycheck would come. And yeah, taking that leap really does mess with your head a little bit, especially if you know the other side. I think sometimes I'm jealous of people that never took the corporate gig. What really did it was going off and making a movie. Because before that, I had all these dreams of wanting to be creative, and I would think to myself, I'd be in meetings with my boss, and I would look into a conference room with like a famous director or writer, and I would see my boss on one side of the couch and the creative on the other, and all I would think about is like, I want to be on the creative side. I want to be on that side of the couch, pitching my ideas, and I. At one point, it did kind of take over me in a negative way, where I kind of decided I can't do it. I need to take the route of being, let's say, an exec, which is really the route that I was on. Before Jonah called me to go make a movie, I was interviewing for jobs to work for Sean Levy, to go work for Josh Singer, these people who I could maybe have learned more from, or I could just take that leap. But it was a mix of making this movie and in a way the pandemic. I found myself at home, found myself helping edit this movie. We wrapped Dating at New York end of November, and 2 months later, of 2019, and then 3 months later, the pandemic started. So we were editing our film remotely, and it was this feeling of, okay, I did something that is so difficult to do. Making a movie, you're despite what many might think, you're in a pretty small pool of people in the world who get to make a feature film, and then the feature film gets into a film festival, and then you sell it to a distributor, and then suddenly it's in theaters, and you kind of see, oh, okay, these things are possible. It's just a matter of being a mix of delusional and just motivated and having a dream. It's really that motivation. I talk about it with a lot of my writer and director friends and my actor friends. There's a certain amount of like having to put aside reality or rationality or logic and just saying, this is what I need to do, and I'm gonna just do it. But it's a struggle every day. I mean, the things that get me out of it are like saying to myself, okay, Eric Roth, who wrote Forrest Gump, he was just a regular guy who was just writing, and suddenly he writes a great screenplay, and then anybody can do anything. It's just a matter of doing it. That's really what I've gotten to myself to believe. You can be a doctor if you go to med school and you do the things to be a doctor. You can be in finance, you can be in real estate. It's just like, you just have to do it. So, like, have you seen the recent movie Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Yes, it's so good.
That movie messed me up, man. But how did that? Didn't that? You know how that made you feel? I hope that I can do something like that. I mean, the beauty of Everything Everywhere All at Once was that it was such a simple message, right? Of just family, mother, daughter, such a simple thing, but it was like coated in like this candy banana split, amazing thing. And it blew my mind. And that's kind of what I want to do. And I weirdly have been trying to I'm addicted to TikTok. I have no shame in admitting that. I just think it's amazing. It's an amazing tool. And recently I've just, my writing partner, who we wrote and sold our first pilot together, she's huge on TikTok. She has like 1.5 million followers, and it's like her primary source of income. It's incredible. And when I see the way she uses it, I think to myself, oh, I kind of want to start using it, just like writing little things. I journal every morning, and I journal a lot about my anxiety mostly. And, my anxiety is probably one of like the biggest parts of my personality, internally. I don't think externally I portray that much. But if I can just make people maybe feel a little less alone, even though more people are talking about it, I think that, so I might maybe use TikTok like that, and maybe it'll turn into more of like a TV show or movie idea. We'll see.
I'm curious to know too, you mentioned your writing partner. So how did that relationship develop? And then also too, are you two a team duo?
So my writing partner is this woman named Lydia Keating. Lydia is amazing. Lydia and I met working at WME together, and then she left to go be Rashida Jones's assistant, and she was there for a bit, and we kind of always stayed in touch. And then during the pandemic, we came together and we were like, should we work together? And we found an incredible collaboration. I love collaborating in my writing. It's something that it's something that I need to almost kind of stop because I love doing it. My favorite thing is just sitting down with someone, coming up with an idea, building a world, and being able to just bounce ideas off each other and then writing something together. Lydia and I talk about it all the time. I almost have to backtrack and say, okay, I also need to prove that I can write something alone, which is important when you're trying to be a writer, because managers will look at that and they'll say, okay, this is a great Lydia and I's pilot. It's a great pilot, but unfortunately, it can't serve as a sample, for me to put myself up for writing jobs and things like that. But I love collaboration, especially when it comes to writing. And I think that there's some people who can do it and there's some people who can't do it, because you have to be able to pick your battles, like have almost no ego and have no, when Lydia says something that I don't agree with, I'll put my foot down and say, I don't agree with this, but we have to think, okay, is this something that if Lydia really wants it, we go there. If she sees that I'm really against it, we won't. We just, there has to be a ton of mutual respect, I think, when two people write together.
That compromise, yeah.
Yeah.
When you are, beyond your relationship with Lydia, but when you are, figuring out the best relationships for these types of collaborations, what elements do you look for in a partner?
I've only collaborated with people that I truly love, to be honest. Lydia and I will get on a Zoom to write, and we'll talk for the first 45 minutes to an hour just about life and how's everything, and people that I can truly open up to and to just be my full self with them. Because I think that if you have to pretend to be anybody else than yourself in a collaboration, you're going to be in trouble, I think.
Well, you had touched on other mediums, so beyond film and television, have you thought about, other areas of different industries, whether it's fashion or music, and you mentioned even social media. So I love the fact that you're curious about dipping your toes into there. Where else? What else are you thinking?
When you just first said that, the first thing that came to my mind is that I have this dream of writing a book, but obviously that's in the same realm. I believe that I will write a book soon. I really want to write a novel. Dipping my toes in social media is something that I want to get into, just because it just seems like too good of an opportunity to pass up right now, to kind of just portray your work, especially the way TikTok's algorithm works, as opposed to the world of Instagram, which was more show off the highlights of your life. TikTok is more show us who you are and why you're talented. I'm very much an entrepreneur. I have to be. From moving to LA to New York, the biggest difference is that in LA, you're really in it, and in New York, you're not. So you have to have an entrepreneurial mindset when it comes to every aspect of your career. So I'm working on a couple projects outside of writing. One of them, which I'm really excited, is this, me and a partner of mine are bringing together all these artists, and we're kind of curating an exhibit, which is really exciting. I can't really talk that much about it, so I'll stop there. Right now, I almost feel like I need to put my head down. I'm in this mindset where I have to put my head down and just crank out scripts, to be completely honest, because the fear of failing has every day gets stronger and stronger until you sell something again.
What does that look like for you? Are you in certain writers' rooms? What are your themes of these scripts upcoming that you're allowed to share with us?
The biggest thing that's on the docket right now is that my writing partner Lydia and I, we sold a project to this company, and what's really cool about it is we sold it. We wrote it as a TV show, but because we're young writers and they're starting this new company called under their umbrella that's going to be a narrative fictional podcast company. So funny enough, podcast. We're turning the show into an audio format version. What's cool about that is that if you're a writer and you sell a TV show, it's hard, like, going through the development and selling it. Making a TV show costs tens of millions of dollars. Making an audio podcast as an IP incubation costs far less. So we sold our show to them, and they want to turn it into a narrative fictional podcast, which means they're going to let us write all of the episodes, which is also very rare. Usually it's literally just Lydia and I in a writer's room of two, which has been an immense amount of work and at times very daunting. But we are just about to get to the process of them approving our series outline, which means that we are going to start writing all the episodes out. And the way that it works is that the goal is to go to like an actor of sorts, like a big name, and say, hey, would you want to do a couple days of work to then, be a part of this project that we can then turn around and try and sell the IP as a TV show. And it feels very full circle, because when I was working for my old boss, Brian Kavanaugh Jones, he started a company while I was there called Q Code that does exactly that. And they've found like really cool success with it. And yeah, it's just a really interesting new way of IP incubation.
That's so interesting. Do you feel like the direction, I know, and this is something that I noticed in terms of trends of different platforms. Obviously, podcasts became pretty large during the pandemic because we were indoors. Do you feel like, knowing the restrictions of, post-quarantine life, the direction of those sort of productions in terms of having that IP and more of is it more of an audio? There's no visual elements, or
there won't be a visual element for the show. Yeah, I think that if you're talking about, being on set and with COVID, I think sets have kind of like got the formula down of how to do it in the safest way possible. So while I did see that there was a pullback in shooting during the pandemic, it's definitely pretty back in full force at this point. It makes things more expensive for sure. But yeah, so the show will be purely audio. And there definitely has been an incredible, uptick of things through the audio format. And what's so cool about it, really, to me, is the fact that, as a young writer, when you selling a show, you can sell a show and then someone will buy it for you, but then someone has to turn around and that production company has to then sell it to a studio and they have to invest a lot of money to make it. What's so cool about the situation is that most likely than not, knock on wood, this show will get made through an audio format, and then ideally it garners listeners, and the Netflixes of the world will say, hey, we want this, and then we can, and that will change my life. So let's hope. But yeah, when I say cranking out scripts right now, I really just mean, I have like a bunch of ideas for some TV shows and some movies, and I really am doing everything at this point on spec outside of that show. And the goal is really what I'm looking for right now as someone who, I listen to the other podcasts and that you guys have done and the interviews you've done. And what's so great about the route that I've taken, but also has another side of the coin, is you come up with all these people, and I lived with roommates who are now agents and managers at these places, and they're all dear friends of mine, but really, and it's funny, and they have helped me immensely in my career so far, but right now what I really want and what I'm looking for is, now that I'm in New York, I want to find a partner / manager in LA who can kind of become my, just my partner in crime for the rest of my career. Somebody who's young, somebody who wants to come up with me, because I'm able to call an agent who's a friend of mine and say, can you help me with this? But you really want someone to seek you out, and someone who really wants to grow with you. I'm not in a position where I want to ask for favors. I want to, so when I say crank out scripts, I really mean I want to build my own kind of portfolio of samples for someone to say, hey, okay, this is interesting. Here's somebody who knows how the market works, who can produce, who can write. And really, my pitch to a lot of these managers is going to be, when it does happen, because I have a little runway plan, is essentially to say to them, I can, I can bring you the ingredients and we can cook together, and like there's just this, I have all these people that I don't know how to reach out to anymore because it's hard to sell yourself, like my friends who are execs, I don't want to put them in a position where I call them and I say, hey, can you please read this? I want to feel like I deserve it. And there's so many other writers who probably deserve it at this point, and I need to prove myself.
And, Callo is a matchmaking platform. So in terms of, finding this perfect partner, do you foresee yourself using the platform as a way to find these relationships?
For sure. Yeah, that's what got me so excited when when I saw that you guys were doing this. I just think that there is this idea that there's a really big divide in terms of how to get there. And outside of Callo, I'm always trying to kind of help people cross over and connect people as much as I possibly can. Just because the pool is massive and there's a ton of talent out there. And I think that's one of the cool things that's happening now. Like a lot of companies out there in Hollywood, I think, are starting to really put emphasis on like, let's support younger talent, and that's super exciting. So yeah,
I couldn't agree more. I think it's the new wave. It's what's happening. And, thank you for just touching on all of the importance of relationship building, because I think that's, even if you have just two big proponents for you that are people that are willing to, help grow you and connect you with their network, that makes such a big difference. So I'm glad to hear that you're also, returning the favor to people that are also coming up.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm just a big believer in, you get what you give at the end of the day.
Well, Joaquin, thank you so much for speaking with us today. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing what's next for you. As always, thank you all for tuning in today. This is your host, Hannah Kirkpatrick. Be sure to follow us on social media and check out our website at wearecallo.com to catch up on previous episodes and be in the know for what's next.